We have a philosophy, and that's mortgage lending made easy.
We list it, and then we're in it together, like a marriage until it closes.
Now we're in the spring market. Spring is really here.
Yes.
And what I'm noticing is that there is a battle out in the marketplace for houses. How many times now that we see people putting offers in on properties and losing due to multiple offers?
Yes.
There are a lot of bidding wars going on. I've seen multiple clients in that situation, and we experienced recently a client who's made offers on multiple properties, and every single time it's a situation where it's just a bidding war.
Yes.
And it's happening consistently. So the market in Connecticut, especially in the Hartford County, has picked up considerably.
And let's say too, it's not just one other buyer. It's 3 or 4 contracts in on one property.
Right.
Yes.
And that's for, Vernon, Manchester, and Glastonbury, across the river, West Hartford,
All
over
counties.
to Cromwell, across Connecticut, really.
Yes.
And it's been such a quiet market for such a long time.
Yes.
It's nice to see, and I think that people are really unprepared for that.
Absolutely.
And the biggest thing if you're a buyer to not be daunted by that. Because you've lost one, there are properties out there, and this is good news for sellers as well. So now's a good time to, if you're thinking about selling, to sell.
So let's help people overcome that.
Sure.
And be able to get their property.
Sure,
So
okay.
on a mortgage side, what can people do? What can buyers do to have a leg up?
Well, at Cheney, what we do now is, well, we do it consistently, but a good weapon, if you will, to have in the battle of real estate is to actually walk into a property, if you're going to be making an offer, and have gone through the underwriting process already, so you actually have a true pre-approval. Now, there's a difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. A pre-qualification is basically going and speaking to a loan officer and saying, well, this is my income, this is what I've done, this is where I'm at, and that's the information I've got for you. Based on the information, would you say that I'm pre-qualified? And the loan officer will take you at face value, take the information as it's been given, and then tell you, based on the criteria of what you verbally had given to them, yes or no. Either you qualify or you don't. On the other side of that coin, you've got the pre-approval process. And the pre-approval process actually takes all the information you've given and then verifies all the information. Verification of employment, verification of deposit, goes through the income, your assets, the full review, a full underwrite just without the property being present. So prior to you shopping for a property, you can actually enter into pre-approval process, have the underwriting completed based on verifying all of your income, all of your assets.
As if you were purchasing a property.
Yes.
So it's as if you were going through it minus the address.
Correct. And what's nice about that is that when you're working with a real estate agent, you can go and make an offer to a prospective seller or a seller with an approval.
And say, I've done everything, all I needed was to put an address down.
That's right. And the wrinkle
In an appraisal.
Well, yes. I mean,
Yes.
then you finish up. So the
Yes.
idea then becomes incumbent upon the property itself. With just the two variables that would be involved are going to be the taxes of the property and how is that going to impact your debt ratios, the insurance for the property and how the cost of that insurance, whether you're in a flood zone, what type of property. The property itself is going to dictate the final step, if you will, in that fully underwritten process. Everything for the client side has been dealt with. We already know they've got ample work history. We already know they've got ample savings. They've got all the credit criteria in place and verified, so we know that that's all good. What we don't know is what's going on with the property. Then it comes to the step of making the offer. I've done everything I can do to make sure that I'm ready to buy this property. Now we need to find the property. Then we go into the situation, like you said, the appraisal. What type of loan is it going to be? What type of property is it? If it's an FHA loan, you have to make sure that there's no missing railings. You can't have a back deck without
Peeling paint.
railing, peeling paint, cracked paint, that kind of stuff. And if there's paint flaking off, you can't close. You need to address the issue as a seller.
Yep.
And if you're a buyer, you're looking at these things thinking to yourself, well, I'm looking at the shed outside. It's not the house, it's an outbuilding. Is that going to affect me? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
You need to pay attention to the condition of the paint. You need to pay attention. Is it a patio that they put on the back of their home that they never intended to have railings on? Well, it doesn't fly FHA.
Right.
If it's a patio, it's a deck. If it's a deck, you need railings.
Right.
If you've got stairs, you need railings. And those are the things that people may not realize that need to be addressed if it's that type of loan. Now, even for conventional, you've got other situations you've got to deal with. For someone who's purchased a house before 1978, and 1978 or older homes have to be, well, they don't have to be, but you can do an inspection for lead paint. Lead paint was used up into 1978 when making houses or painting homes and so forth, and when they did away with the lead paint. So, things like that are to be noted and to be taken into consideration. Because if you have a lead paint situation, for example, you've tested positive for lead paint, for an FHA loan, you need to have an abatement or sealed, So those kind of things. So having the pre-approval, going through that process, it lets the seller know that the person who's making the offer is bona fide. A bona fide buyer, someone who has the capability to buy the home based on their pre-qualification. So they've got a letter saying you've got up to this much, or maybe even more or less, well, not less, but that at least that much or more, and that way they have the capacity to buy the home. They can feel comfortable in entering into a contract with that person. And on a real estate side, what does that mean for a realtor?
Having that pre-approval?
As opposed to a pre-qualification.
Well, that's huge because I'm going to sell that all day long to the listing agent when I present my offer. Actually has more weight, and so and I think that it's very important for the agent to convey that to the listing agent exactly what it is, to make sure that you say this is not a pre-qual, they have gone through everything, this is subject to the appraisal.
Right, and there's a confusion because once upon a time it'd always be, well, did you get pre-approved? Have you been pre-approved? Did you get pre-approved? And the idea is that it's not pre-approved because they changed the law. And in changing the law, as a loan officer, I can't ask for documents until you've entered into the intent to proceed. You have to tell me that, yes, this is what I want to do. I'm putting an application for this property, or I'm putting an application to be pre-approved. Here's my documentation.
Correct.
I can't ask for documentation unless you, a borrower, is willing to enter into our financial review. And the difference is, and many people may not understand that, is that it's a situation where you have to trust what the person is saying. And because you have to trust what the person is saying, you have to basically give that pre-approval based on the verbal conversation you've had with an individual without verifying any depository information, any income information, length of residency, or even how long they've been living in their property. You can't verify any of that by law unless they volunteer that information to you as a loan officer. So now, say for example, as a pre-approval, you have a buyer who comes to me and it says, I'd like you to pre-approve this person, or you've given my name as a referral, and the client has contacted me saying, I'd like to get pre-approved to buy a home. We say, okay, let's fill out the application, and based on the information I've seen without verifying and these numbers, I can tell you yes or no whether you qualify. And now I have to give them their pre-approval, and then they use that instrument to enter into an agreement. Now the problem with that is it's not been verified. So they put out an offer, they go to buy the house, and let's say then all of a sudden we find out after we start to verify information, they've got a garnishment on their paycheck. that they didn't disclose. But we can see their credit, we can see everything, we start to review things, and we find out, well, yes, you do make this money, but your obligations and a garnishment is not on your credit report, but it's on your paycheck. And these are things you can't see until you actually go through the process. So when it comes to the realm of who's got a pre-approval versus who's got a pre-qualification, and they're very different documents, it's a big deal. So I would say that when dealing with a real estate agent, and you're putting an offer in, saying this is a pre-approval, there's weight behind that was not there just a few years ago. Because people would say, have you been pre-approved? Would you like to get pre-approved? Pre-qualification and pre-approval, two different things. And the thing is, many companies do not put out pre-approvals. They put pre-qualified. Congratulations, you are pre-qualified to buy. Pre-qualified is not qualified. Pre-approval is qualified, just not approved yet because we don't have the property. Big difference, huge difference, right? Yeah. So, I mean, in your estimation, when you're dealing with sellers, and you've been doing this a little while, what would you think would be seen more favorably?
Well, absolutely pre-approval.
Right. And we're seeing this market being as crazy as it is right now. That's a distinction that will go a long way. So I would say to people who are thinking about buying a home to actually go the route of pre-approval if that works for you, meaning that maybe you're a first-time home buyer. You're not really sure how student loans are calculated. That's another thing. Student loans, huge problem for some people who don't realize that you have to account for those. So we've had people come to us to buy homes, and they've gone through lengthy, nurses, doctors, et cetera, who've gone through a lengthy collegiate process and have acquired a significant amount of student loans. And they don't have any repayment right now. And they don't think that that's going to affect them when it comes to buying a home because they don't have to repay that for a specified period of time and they're not in repayment. However, as a rule, we have to count 1% of whatever outstanding balance is as an obligation. And that could take someone from having a great or a close debt ratio to being over the top and no longer qualified, needing then a co-borrower or another scenario to help them through the process and what type of property they can buy. All of this has something to do with it, and that's the difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. So just to recap real quick, is that in today's market, being as busy as it is and having many people with multiple offers and seeing many, like I said, for every multiple bid property of 4 or more, there's only one winner.
Yes.
And the way to go in strongest is to actually go through a pre-approval process, having your file underwritten prior to getting to the property. And if you're thinking about buying, it may be in your best interest, or it could be very well the difference maker between you winning the property and losing to another offer. So I would say take the time, start now, talk to a loan officer, go through the process, right?
Yes.
And then
Get pre-approved.
get pre-approved.
Absolutely.
And when you go in, have this strongest offer because you've already gone that step.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to a crazy,
Yeah.
busy spring.
Absolutely.
And then
Okay.
See how many we can do.
Okay.
Right?
Awesome.
All right.
Okay. Take
Goodbye.
care.